Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where not only committed to our opinions, but also each other. Aww.
Aw.
I'm Kevin Lau.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Danny. You were about to say something?
Yeah. No, I was just saying yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, get off my back. Let me just say yeah.
I'm Kevin Lau.
Not everything's an interruption.
And interrupting me right now is a returning guest, Danny Vincent. And you also heard one other voice. Who are you, Caleb? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, y'all. I'm Caleb. I'm from just a litany of other podcasts, but probably the ones most relevant here is All New 52, where we talk about comics, and the Snub Club, which I'm on with my good friend Danny.
Mm-hmm. And Danny, where are you from? Where can we find you?
Well, I'm on the Snub Club, obviously, and I am also have a Marvel podcast called Why Is with Ty and Dan. Honestly, Caleb, you could have marketed one of your other stuff knowing that I was going to mention the Snub Club. So good on you for supporting my podcast.
Hey, I'm going to be on an episode just me, so I can market the hell out of that one.
Oh,
That's true.
That's awesome. It's kind of like what I'm doing right now without Zach and Ryan because they're off for the weekend. But don't worry, they'll be back. But today we're going to talk about something that we don't usually talk about, which is Broadway theater. Specifically,
Yes.
we're talking about HadesTown, which is going to be the first Broadway show to return from the pandemic, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. If, of course, Cuomo allows it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he will. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't. They wouldn't announce it if they weren't allowed.
Cuomo's secretly a big fan of Jersey Boys, and so he's trying to get that to be revived and be the first show back.
I was really okay. Good. I was gonna be like, it's not on Broadway, but yes, it does need to be revived. You're right. You got me.
I was gonna go with Beetlejuice, but then I thought Cuomo's definitely more of a Jersey Boys kind of guy.
Yeah, he probably is.
Okay,
Anyway.
but as of recording this, the headlines were saying that's going to be the first one coming back in September.
Yes.
They could always change because we're a few months away from September, but as of right now, we are correct.
Yes.
But before we dive into HadesTown, let's go ahead and give our quick spoiler-free thoughts. How and when we watched it or listened to it, and rating it. And Danny, you want to kick us off?
All right, yeah. So I was the first person who was encountered HadesTown. Me and my good friend Mark Young, who, if you listen to my Why Is podcast, we did an episode about a musical recently that he was on, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Which actually has two cast members from HadesTown.
Yes. Yes. And Caleb, rather famously, has seen Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark live.
Nice. Jealous.
Yeah.
It was amazing. A spiritual experience.
Yeah, so me and Mark went on a road trip our senior year, and we took suggestions from all our theater friends for musicals to listen to, because I'm just telling you, if you like musicals and you're on a road trip, it does make sense to just download cast albums and listen to them, because you can, for the most part, get the full story. And at that time, we had, at that time, the off-Broadway recording had been out, and someone had recommended it to us to listen to. And the off-Broadway recording is a lot more raw than this one. I know Caleb has listened to that one as well. But anyway, so we really liked it, and we're like, oh, this would be so cool to see live. But it hadn't been on Broadway yet. But then like a few months later, they announced it was going to be on Broadway. So it was like a big goal of mine to see it on Broadway. And eventually I did go see it with Caleb last January, which let me tell you, we were really lucky because initially the plan was to go on spring break. And if we'd gone on spring break, we would have not seen HadesTown.
We dodged
so we went on, we went on MLK weekend, which had its own series of issues involving the weather. But you know what? Ultimately, we saw HadesTown with the full cast outside of a one of the Fates was understudy, but we had a really good understudy, so who cares, As for what I would rate it, I don't really rate musicals.
Fair.
What I do is would I spend the exorbitant amounts of price to see this again? And in the case of HadesTown, yes, I would probably spend not the $250 we spent to see it again, unless it was on Broadway, but that it was like $100 for me to see it in Chicago, I would spend that. Sure.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great.
Awesome. How about you, Caleb?
Yeah. So, like Danny mentioned, he recommended it to me because I studied Greek myth, well, Greek society more broadly in college, but mythology was my focus. And so, because it's a story about Orpheus, he suggested it to me. And then I listened to it. And immediately after listening to it, I started it right back because it's just a really easy musical to go back to because it's kind of got this cyclical nature. That's reflective of mythology, and it also just has a bunch of really like great music. So I absolutely loved it, and then me and Danny went to see it, and it was like a dream come true. I will only see Patrick Page musicals on Broadway from now on to keep up the streak. But I really think the Broadway version perfectly realizes the potential of the off-Broadway version. So I'd give it a 5 out of 5.
Nice.
Can I do a quick call out though, by the way, because Caleb just reminded me of it, is that when I had said I was going to go see it on Broadway, it was a big thing where I was going to go see it with Mark, and Mark ended up saying no, he didn't want to go. So I was really happy I had Caleb there to go with me. So it was just me awkwardly singing it alone. Caleb's a bro.
Yeah.
Kevin, you weren't invited.
Yeah, I mean, all's fair, I guess. I don't know. Do it for Broadway. Anything for Broadway. Even stabbing your friends in the back.
Yikes.
But yeah, so the way I watched it, or actually listened to it, I listened to the original Broadway cast recording, which apparently came out in 2019, very recently. But Danny's been suggesting it to me for months, and finally, like, I had an open slot for an episode topic. Danny's like, "Hey, you should listen to HadesTown and talk about it on the show." I'm like, "All right, sure." And
I think months is an understatement. Just saying. I think I've been telling you to listen to this like for the same amount of time I told Caleb to listen to it because I know you liked Hamilton. But Caleb actually listened to me initially.
Yeah.
And you took your sweet time to get to it.
I took my sweet ass time.
It took me a couple months too. The semester had ended by the time I'd gotten there.
Yeah.
It's been about 3-4 years for me, Kevin. But okay, it's fine.
No. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. I don't remember you suggesting it back in school, but you know what? I'll take your word on it. Yeah. So it took me forever to finally listen to HadesTown. Apparently, for me, I thought it took months, but still. But just listening to it, I was just mesmerized by both the music and the story. It's like Caleb mentioned, the cyclical nature of that reflects Greek mythology storytelling. Sort of like the chiasmus storytelling as well, where like the second half kind of reflects the first half of the story and with all its payoff. But with its musical cues and like how like there's certain pauses or like the way like even just like the sound design in this recording, which just like I was able to paint a very clear picture in my head without using any visuals as a foundation. Like it was really emotionally engaged, and it was everything about it had very strong setups and payoffs, and just absolutely adored all of it. 5 out of 5. I was listening to the second the reprise of "Wait for Me" in my car on my way to work, and I just had a tear in my eye.
Understandable. It's very emotional. And the more you listen to it, the more I think you connect with the emotions.
We can talk about when I cried when we get our spoiler warning.
Yeah, but before we dive into spoilers, if you want to go ahead and give this a listen, if you have a Hoopla, HOOPLA, which is usually partnered with libraries, so if you have a library card and your library is partnered with Hoopla, the whole cast recording is right there for free to listen to. And now, diving into spoilers, let's talk about one thing we liked. I already said the Wait For Me reprise. Absolutely loved it. Also loved Epics 1, 2, and 3 when it was just referring back to the origin of Hades and Persephone, and just Hades and Persephone's chemistry in general. Just absolutely adored all of that. How about you, Caleb?
Going off of what you were saying with Persephone, the actress who plays her on Broadway, Amber Gray, is such a presence, and this is a musical that has like a stellar cast. Andre DeShields is in it, and from the moment he walks on stage, he like is electric. Patrick Page is amazing, but Amber Gray, I think, blows everyone else out of the water. The moment I always go to is when Hades is first introduced, and he's bringing her back down to the underworld. She has kind of this dance where her just body goes full limp, and she just starts doing this like weird gyric
good.
jumping. And it's like, it's mesmerizing. Even in songs like The Chants, where she doesn't sing much, it was always fun to like look over and see what she was doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Amber Gray is good. Caleb, before I give mine, can I ask you a question on, because I actually am adding one for me like this. If you had a favorite song, what would your favorite song be? What's your favorite bop here?
Oh,
It's too tough.
Man, it's very tough. I would say the second chant. Both of the chants are really. I love how they layer all the vocals, but I think the second one's my favorite.
I'm wowing because the chants are my favorite as well. I didn't know we had that same time. Yeah, I think the chants are the best songs in the show, but that's more because of my own personal taste that I really love when a show. What's the word for it? Like all the characters begin interacting with each other. Like, for example, my favorite song in Hamilton besides Satisfied is Nonstop. And that's just because it's when all the cast is interacting at the same time.
Right. Feels more organic.
But to avoid talking about chant again, I will say that the song... So when I listen to a show before I see it, I only save one song to my rotation. Because whenever I see it, I want most of the music to be fresh. For In the Heights, it's In the Heights. Like, it's the opening song. I'm trying to think of what it was for. I think it was My Shot for Hamilton. And for this, it was Way Down HadesTown, which is the intro to Hades in the show, which is such a fun thing to see live. Even though it's really weird because Hades is actually on stage at the very beginning. So it's not the grand reveal you'd expect it to be. But yeah, I don't know. It's really good. And speaking of Hades, the best actor in this is Patrick Page. But not as, okay. I was gonna say not because of his acting, but it is because of his acting partially.
Yeah.
It's more just because as someone who really follows Broadway, you rarely get that big bass part.
Yeah.
And so the role of Hades is what I love. Not more than Page, because I think Page executed it wonderfully. And also, of all the costumes in this show, I think Hades has the coolest costume.
Yeah, I saw a clip. There's like he's like a faceless mask.
No, it's not a mask. I don't think it's.
He has sunglasses.
Oh,
yeah, he has sunglasses and like not spiked, but like faux hawked white hair.
Oh,
yeah,
and then two big sleeves, or is it maybe just one sleeve? That's a brick wall.
Maybe I don't remember the sleeves because we were up in the back row. We were in the cheap seats. And by cheap we mean $250.
Rip.
Yeah, but I think it was worth it still. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is I really like the set design in the show, which you obviously can't get from the album.
Right.
It utilizes a rotating stage wonderfully, and also the descent into hell is I don't want to spoil it, but we also already gave our spoiler warning, and it's also in the Wait For Me video clip from the Tonys. But the shift it does when it goes into the underworld is so cool to see live.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, I watched the Tonys clip like you recommended to me. I was just mesmerized.
The Tonys clip. I'll talk a bit more about that later on when we talk about what I don't like.
Okay. But yeah, so it uses the rotating stage. Was this the same? So I saw the rotating stage in the clip. Was this the same stage that Hamilton was shot on, or at least performed on?
No, Hamilton's still in its theater.
Oh, okay.
Hamilton has not moved. So sorry. Also, I'm sorry. I have one more thing to say because I just looked at the notes and I saw I had it under something I don't like, but it's something I like. Can I just say it? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said name one thing you liked, and I came with 4 things.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's hard
to pick
not
just
to do
one
that for this show.
Yeah, exactly.
So you obviously don't get this from the album. I remember, Caleb, you said this to me when we left the theater, is that Persephone and Hades' dance is obviously something you can't get from a recording, but it's so beautifully choreographed. And it's so emotional to see their big dance after the third epic. And like,
I like listening to the
great.
third epic. I'm just imagining it. I'm like, what is this like on stage? Like, I have to know.
Well, and what's so great about it is like it's not a huge spectacle. Like there are very big like jaw-dropping moments, but it's also the way it's staged. It's also has a lot of small, intimate, simple moments that are honestly the most powerful.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. The flower. We'll just leave it at that. The flower. The flower.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about one thing we didn't like, but also some final thoughts on HadesTown. See you back in a minute. Starting a podcast? Try a Podbean Unlimited hosting plan. It's what we use here at Committed Critics, giving us the opportunity to have our show on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and even Spotify. You can get your first month of unlimited hosting for free on us by going to podbean.com/committedcrits, just like our Twitter, or by clicking the link in the description. Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting.
Don't you wish there was a pop culture review site that appealed to cinephiles, both professional and casual? Well, look no further than crpwrites.com. New content such as movie and TV reviews, film essays, and more are released every week by writers who crave for movies like every moviegoer craves for popcorn. CRP Writes is dedicated to making sure no one is wasting time or money where they shouldn't be. After all, you have to be able to buy your popcorn and eat it too. crpwrites.com. Casual reviews with purpose since 2018.
And we're back, continuing our talk on HadesTown on one thing we didn't like. Danny, do you want to kick us off on this one?
All right, so here's the dealio. There is a big discourse around this show with Reeve Carney, where Reeve Carney was, the critics were iffy on him. Mm-hmm. They thought he was too pretty boy. I think that'd be the best way for me to analyze their
to clarify, Reeve Carney plays as Orpheus, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
he plays Orpheus. Here's my opinions on Orpheus as a character. Before I get into the Reeve Carney stuff, which is that I think Orpheus, to me, even on the off-Broadway recording where he is not portrayed by Reeve Carney, he's the weakest character in this by far, or at least he's not nearly as interesting as Persephone, Hades, and Eurydice.
Right.
And then Hermes is, he's whatever. He's our narrator, so he doesn't need to be super interesting. He just needs to be charismatic. Mm-hmm. So Reeve Carney is the only one of the main 5 actors not to get Tony nominated. And this was a huge deal at the time because it was like, what the heck? You're pretty much singling him out to not nominate him for a Tony, especially if you look at the competition that year that HadesTown was the, I don't want to say, so the way Broadway usually works for the Tonys is there's a bunch of stuff that's based off of pre-existing properties. And then there's 1 or 2 prestige things that are kind of its own thing. Mm-hmm. HadesTown was it this year. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I can't really remember if there was or not. I'll look it up while I talk. But basically, he wasn't nominated, and the discourse was that he was the weakest part of the show. I would say that the weakest part of the show was, there's no weak part of the show. I think Reeve Carney is really good. Mm-hmm. The issue is that his role is just inherently not as interesting.
Well, the thing about Orpheus in here is that Orpheus is mainly defined by telling other people's stories, and so you get less of a feel with him. I would say that they made they worked very hard to make him more interesting than he was on the off-Broadway version.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I haven't listened to the off-Broadway version in a while. Sorry, did you have more to say, Caleb?
No, it's just expanding on that. They give him clear goals and motivations in here that you can infer from the off-Broadway, but aren't explicit.
Yeah. And for example, by the way, I looked it up. So the Tonys this year, it was up against Tootsie and Beetlejuice, which are based off of movies. Mm-hmm. Ain't Too Proud, which is a jukebox musical about the Temptations. And then The Prom, which is now a Ryan Murphy Netflix movie, but at the time was just a fun little... It's a lark. I hate to be like that. I hate to be like, it's not a serious time. But HadesTown is very clearly a bigger artistic achievement. Mm-hmm. The only real competition it had would have been the Ain't Too Proud thing. But my point is, going back to Reeve Carney, is there's a discourse that he's the weakest part of the show, but I don't really... I want to talk about Spider-Man very briefly. Well, okay, because to me, one of the coolest parts of the show is Wait For Me, which you saw on the Broadway, the Tony recording.
Right.
Is he's dodging all these swinging lights while he's on a rotating stage.
Right.
And still singing. And it's just such an achievement to me to watch. And the idea that he does it every night perfectly, or, that if he has a mistake, it's not going to be a noticeable one. Mm-hmm. He's not going to get knocked over by a light type of thing,
Right.
Knock on wood, listener. We don't want this to happen in September.
And headline comes out, Reeve Carney is perished. No.
Oh no, I'm out of practice.
My point is, I think Reeve Carney is very talented, and I think he's very good in this. And I think his assets might not be as easily noticeable as the other members in the cast,
Right.
but he's really great.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Everyone's good in this. That my thing I don't like is that people say there's a part of this that's bad. That's basically what I'm saying.
And I think there's always that instinct to find the weak link. And if like you force me to find a weak link in the cast, I might also say Reeve Carney. But it's not because he's bad. It's just because it's a cast full of amazing performances.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you know, he may or may not be the weakest link, but but he's still like the whole chain is really strong. Yeah, but it's all great. Like, you know, I think, you know, like we were saying, like Orpheus as a character might be the least interesting character, but still like Reeve Carney totally nails the role in the cast recording. And I totally bought it. I was really into it. So
I just remember, just as a side note, Caleb, we were so lucky when we saw this because I remember reading either the week before, the week after we went, either Amber Gray or Patrick Page were out.
Oh,
so we had, and as we said, we had the full cast besides one of the muses, and the muse we had was really cool, the understudy. So
Fates.
Face. My bad. Cancel me. I don't know this.
It was Fate.
I don't know this thing that I made Kevin do a podcast on.
Oh no!
All I'm saying, if they were muses, they wouldn't have been able to have a Christmas album.
That's true. There's a Christmas album of this, Kevin. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, had no idea, but now I'm gonna go look for it.
Because it's called
it's called If the Fates Allow.
All right.
Yeah, you're right. That's why you got me. Yeah, it can't be If the Muses Allow. It doesn't make any sense.
But yeah,
it's a Christmas album.
Well, I'm gonna go look for it now. But yeah, one thing I didn't like about HadesTown is that I can't afford to see this on Broadway yet. Just having to settle with a few clips I can find. Is there like a pro shot version of it though? Because I feel like there's one clip found.
No, not yet.
Okay.
No. The pro shot when Hamilton came out, the director said, like the pro shot of Hamilton came out. The director of HadesTown, Rachel Chafkin, said that she wants to put together a pro shot once Broadway is reopened. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that happens. But that said, I would imagine it'd be the same thing, kind of like Hamilton, where it's not going to be released till the full cast is gone.
Right. Okay, that's fair. Understandable. Yeah. Caleb, what's one thing you didn't like?
All right, here's my hot take on HadesTown. Andre DeShields is a legend. He's amazing in the show, and he can play Hermes for as long as he wants. I'm giving him permission right now. However, moving forward, when they start to tour, or when they inevitably, Andre DeShields decides to step down and they have to recast him, I hope that they go back to casting Hermes as a baritone, like they did in the off-Broadway version, because I feel like him being a baritone helps flesh out the musical range of the ensemble. Mm-hmm. And it kind of creates this meta connection, putting him in between Hades, who is a bass, and Orpheus, who's a tenor. I always enjoyed that. And while I wouldn't give up Andre DeShields to have that back, I hope that when you can't have Andre DeShields, that's what they do.
On the off-Broadway version, to be clear, Hermes is played by Chris Sullivan, who is Toby in This Is Us. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys are familiar with This Is Us.
I know Chris Sullivan because I've worked with him for a few days.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was gonna say he's Taserface in Guardians. I had forgot we had that conversation.
Yeah, yes. He's in Broadcast Signal Intrusion, which I worked as a key set PA on. He was there for a few days.
Yeah, and I remember being bummed you hadn't listened to HadesTown yet because you couldn't ask him about it. That's true.
So it has been a long while. It's been a while since I worked on that movie.
You just proved my point.
Oh, no.
But yeah, well, I get what you're saying, and this is where I kind of want to give lip service to. I know that don't you like listening to the off-Broadway one more?
Yeah, there are one or two changes that I think I'd rather see the Broadway version performed, but I think as a listening experience, there's one or two changes that elevate the off-Broadway version. This
is one of the rare things where there aren't a lot of musicals I can think of, at least modern, where there's an off-Broadway recording and a Broadway recording, because there's usually not really a monetary what's the reason? You know what I mean? Like,
it's not financially feasible to do an off-Broadway recording.
Or like, yeah, for in the case of HadesTown, it's like people want to hear Reeve Carney and Andre DeShield's interpretations of the characters. So of course they need to re-record the album because they're not the same actors.
Right.
I think, isn't also Eurydice someone different in that album, or is it still Ava? I can't pronounce people's names. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's someone different, but
it is someone different. Yeah. So my point is, people want to be able to listen to the actual cast, that's in air quotes, the actual cast, the cast of the people who were brought on. So if you ever have a free time, Kevin, on a road trip, I'd actually recommend listening to the off-Broadway version once if you're curious about it.
Yeah.
It's a different experience. It's a bit more of an intimate experience, but I personally like the Broadway one more.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the off Broadway one. Now that we're like, since you get from what you guys are talking about it, I did have a question though. Like, so I'm not 100% familiar with theater and Broadway, so this might be a stupid question, but how different are off Broadway versions compared to Broadway versions when they transfer? Like, I'm obviously, like, I would imagine since they have a bigger different stage, they can choreograph a bit differently. But like, do they rewrite it at all?
It greatly depends on the show. For the case of HadesTown, HadesTown is a little like for Hamilton, right? Hamilton transferred straight from off Broadway to Broadway, so there's not really much of a difference, other than the staging being a bit larger. HadesTown was on off Broadway in 2016 and did not appear on Broadway till 2019.
Okay,
so it actually went to London first, and it reworked a bit of its stuff before it moved off Broadway. Also, I believe the off-Broadway one was staged either in the round or like as if you were in a bar.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I'd need to look into that.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. I'd love to see the off-Broadway version of this. In fact, a part of me wishes... Well, no, I don't, because it wasn't... I was like, I wish I'd seen this in New York when it was there, but I just realized it was not on off-Broadway when I visited New York in 2018. It was, as I said, 2016, so that's a dumb thing for me to say. It was not there.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for this show, I would say it was pretty different, but this show had a different production.
Well, and it's also...
than something like...
It started life as a concept album, so it's always kind of been this work in progress. And so I think it's fitting that there was a little bit of workshopping it before it went to Broadway.
To be fair, Hamilton started as a concept album too, though.
Oh, so that kind of explains why if you listen to the Broadway album, like you get the full story. Like it's just because it's all music throughout.
I've listened to it. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
This is sung through. Hamilton's obviously sung through, and then I think also the big sung through of recent times is The Great Comet of 1812, which is a show I recommend to both of you to listen to it whenever you want.
For very different reasons.
Well, adding it to the list. I promise I'll get to that faster than I did with HadesTown.
Yeah, that one I've actually only listened to through once because I want to see it live, but I fear that much like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, it might never be staged again.
Rip. I really wanted to see Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Yes, for very different reasons.
Man, so yeah, this has been talking about HadesTown. Just go ahead and give around our final thoughts. Danny, what are your final thoughts on HadesTown? Or actually, I should start with Caleb.
Yeah,
I'll be a little bit more brief if I can make that assumption. Love you, Danny. I can't wait to see this when it tours again. I love just occasionally sitting down, listening to the off-Broadway version. I'll do it once every couple months. I have the vinyl for the Broadway one, so I'll put that one on from time to time.
Nice.
But
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they... I'm not sure. I bought it at the show, so I'm not sure if they sell it elsewhere. But I would definitely see if you could buy it. But there's no replacing the experience of being in a theater and seeing it. And one of the things I'm excited about with the tour is seeing it with as much of the original cast as will go on a tour. But it's my understanding that usually when things tour, it's a different cast. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I can't think of the last time a tour went out with the original cast, because it's
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how people reinterpret these characters and make it something new. I'm excited for the next iteration of HadesTown.
I'm with Caleb about the tour. I've been talking this up to so many people in Chicago since before I saw it, but after I saw it, I was like, yeah, when this comes to Chicago, we have to see it again. And I'll go with you. I've sold my brother on it and stuff like that. So yeah, I really look forward to coming to Chicago whenever it does. But that said, I would literally like sell a kidney to be at the return for Broadway. And the reason I say that is because thematically, this show is about like things repeating and how spring will come again and all that. And it sounds cheesy, but Broadway hasn't been around for a year and a half. I imagine the first show back is going to be so emotional for everyone there. And to me, I said I was going to talk about this, so I guess now is a good time for me to bring it up because I haven't mentioned it yet. Is I cry at the very end of this show during the reprise of Road to Hell when they decide to sing it again anyway, even if they know it's going to end sad. Because it's really hard for me to put into words like the theme of the show. It's just like, things are going to turn out bad, but we still got to live and like the moments that are good. At least that's how I feel during that moment. And it just feels really serene in a way that, I don't know. It just makes me cry. Even when I listen to the recording, I get always emotional. This week I re-listened to it and I was half listening to the end of it because I was doing some work on my computer. And then when that song came up, I still just felt like a deep sense of like serenity, but also emotion. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to see this on the first show back.
I mean, yeah.
That would be so incredible.
I just got chills with you talking about that because that is such an amazing moment. And imagine Andre DeShields on stage singing that to the audience and then the encore. It's going to be.
Yeah. I would spend so much money to go to that, but yeah.
So if anyone's looking for a kidney to buy,
it's available.
Hey, you only need one.
Just gotta somehow get me tickets to the HadesTown first show back.
Start a GoFundMe. But yeah, no, my final thought is I just can't wait to eventually see this live one day. Like until then, I will definitely give it a re-listen. I'll look for it on vinyl if I can. And then I'll listen to it on Hoopla if I have to. It's also, as we mentioned during the break, it's also on Spotify and where else? Pandora?
It's on it's everywhere you can stream music.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So if you can,
it's on YouTube. It's on.
Yeah, if you want to, if you're able to have those services ad free, you can go ahead and give a listen there. If you're not able to afford those, if your local library is partnered with Hoopla, you can listen to ad free on there for free. Not sponsored, by the way, but just I love using Hoopla. But yeah, the music. It's just
stop singing.
It's just the music of the show. It's just like I can't wait to see it live because it's just like how it expresses emotion and turns it into a musical.
Yeah,
factor.
Whenever me and Danny were walking around New York afterwards, we would just randomly just start going dun 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 dun, dun, which is the opening of the musical.
Boom. Boom, 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 boom.
La 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 la.
Yeah, that too. What was I gonna say? Not Caleb. Kevin. By the way, for me to mention at the end is kind of funny. You're aware that the band is on stage during this, right?
No, I wasn't.
I'm gonna just drop that on you at the end of this recording. Yeah, the band's on stage the entire show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And that's why in Our Lady of the is it Upside Down? I don't know why I can't remember the name of the time. Our Lady of the Underground.
Yeah,
Our Lady of the Underground.
The opening song to Act 2.
Yeah, that's why on the album she introduces the people on the drums and stuff because they're all on stage.
Okay.
The people on the instruments.
Yeah, I thought that was she was referring to like actors pretending to be
no,
band.
That's the orchestra.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I really can't wait to see it live. I hope so. When they tour, I've seen Grease on tour before, and that was kind of when they went to Champagne.
The band should be on stage on tour.
Yeah,
the band. I'd be very surprised if the band's not on stage on tour.
Yeah. Okay.
They probably won't be able. They might not be able to do the stage. They probably won't be able to do the swinging lights, but they'll definitely do the band because that was also part of the off-Broadway.
Yeah, well, in Chicago, we should be able to have the rotating stage. We have plenty of rotating stages here.
Cool.
Yeah, but
well, when it's in Chicago, let me know. I'll try to make it.
Do it. Buy me my ticket. No, I'm kidding.
I gotta sell my kidney first.
I'll give you my kidney.
If you sell your kidney, you can buy 2 tickets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Both for you. So yeah, this has been Committed Critics with Caleb and Danny. Caleb, do you have anything you want to plug?
Absolutely. You can find me at Caleb from the Real World on Instagram and YouTube. And from there, you can find all of my podcasts, All New 52, where we talk about comics, Hot Trash Unlimited, where we talk about new release movies, The Snub Club with Danny, where we talk about old movies, and Star Wars Therapy, where we talk about a certain sci-fi franchise.
Ooh, is it Star Trek?
Star Trek is the greatest franchise of all time.
It's Galaxy Quest, Danny. Come on.
I would do a Galaxy Quest podcast. It might only go for 1 episode, but
Galaxy Quest, 1 frame at a time.
An hour for each frame.
Exactly. Danny, was there anything you wanted to plug?
Well, Snub Club, you can listen to me on Why Is with Ty and Dan. We're about to do, well, actually, I don't know when this episode's coming out. Maybe we already are doing Loki. What? You can listen to our Loki recaps. You could also find me on Letterboxd at Blake Mintz if you want to see my movie reviews. And also, let's be honest, Letterboxd is probably the best place to get all of my podcast news in one spot because I always log each episode.
That is true.
Letterboxd. So it's a pretty convenient feed for that. So
nice. This has been Committed Critics. You can follow us at Committed Crits on Twitter. That's COMMITTEDCRITS. You can follow us on YouTube, spelled the same there it is here, Committed Critics. Then you can support us on Patreon in the link below. Special thanks to Davey Peppers from Game Mechanics and Ryan Kowalkowski from Ryan Plays Drums for being our patrons. Special thanks to our sound engineer, Jordan Smearman, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.